and resonant for this week for me, because I found myself, I was away with my family, and lovely. I mean, we were up to our cabin or lake. We have this lake house out in upstate New York, and it's just gorgeous. It's sacred place. It's just on Golden Pond, and for us, we've had it for 25 years. But we're all in tight quarters, or just our family, the 2 kids, 4 of us, and it's interesting because I found myself in the middle of mom in the middle, trying to please several different party members of family members.
Yes.
At the same time, and at one point I realized I had so lost my sense of boundary about where I end and my family members begin, that it was to the point where I had to kayak out into the middle of the lake and just sit there and go, what is wrong with what's happening here? And then I realized, wow, I have so dishonored my boundaries, which I can explain, that I felt like a complete betrayal to myself. It was just this amazing, oh my God, I've completely betrayed myself.
You're so lucky that you have yourself to check in with like that, though.
Well, kayaking out to the middle of a 5-mile lake at first thing in the morning when there are no boats on it, to be able to find that space to do it, and I'm so grateful for it. But yeah, I did a check-in. So yeah, so boundaries are this a thing, and so my story this week, because it always comes out in a story, right? And if I'm involved, it always leads to the kitchen. All my life lessons have ended up being in the kitchen, and I find that so fascinating. For something that I've tried to avoid my whole life.
kind of telling.
Yeah, I know. So I guess, here's my situation. And, here we are, 2020, Corona, COVID-19. Oh, I read something very funny on Facebook about somebody talking about, it was an anonymous diary entry about 2020, and it kept talking about how COVID-19 was, when that suddenly started spiking and coming into people's consciousness, and people were very confused about the name, and they thought that maybe they were 1 through 18 prior to it. And so every time they referred to it as COVID-19, not 1 through 18, or COVID, not 1 anyway, I just went, I just switched tracks and just went on a completely different tangent. Sorry. Anyway, but so anyway, I've got my
kitchen boundaries.
So get back to my boundary. So kitchen boundaries. So my daughter's 22, right? She just graduated from college, and the natural yearning to be on her own and be having her own kitchen. And she's very structured, organized, dare I say controlling, but she is a convertino, and she has definitely inherited that from my
and her daddy may similar genetic qualities there. Yeah,
daddy like daughter, but brilliant, both of them brilliant, but she has a yearning to make sense of the kitchen her way, of which I have compassion for, because I don't want to quench that, because honestly, when I was 22, no way would I be living with my parents under their rules in their kitchen. I had my own kitchen. I was doing my own thing. And so
I'd had my own apartment for several years already by the time I was 22.
Her frustration of needing to have her conflict of, this is really hard for me to be in your kitchen and not have it my way. So I'm trying to be compassionate about that. And then I have the other side with my husband, who's like, who's messing with my kitchen, right?
It's my kitchen, not your mother's kitchen. And no, you do not get to change it, and you do not get to have it your own way. And This
Yeah.
is how it goes. Yeah.
So I'm the one caught in the middle trying to make peace with both of them and allow each one of them to have their control. And what happens is I end up being the one like reprimanded and, for whatever, for coming in and buying the wrong groceries or putting them, I don't put them in back in the refrigerator the way that, my daughter needs them put in, or I've whatever it is, or I haven't, the dishes get put away somewhere that my husband had created a space for and I didn't realize, because this is
Unlike me, when those things happen, I lash out at everyone around me. You probably don't.
well, here's the deal. This is where I say I totally betrayed myself. Yeah, I didn't. I totally accepted it and went into, oh, shame. I've done something. I'm bad. I'm bad. I've done something wrong. And then I'm like, what am I doing here? I mean, I found myself in that place of I have no boundaries. Like when it comes to this, I'm just like, it was not good. And I was so upset. I was literally in my kayak in the middle of the lake crying and thinking, what is wrong with me? And that's when I realized, oh, I betrayed myself. I did not set my boundaries. I actually had no boundaries. I was, when it came to this particular situation, I certainly had boundaries elsewhere in my life, but for whatever reason, I crumble when it comes to this room in the house. So then I decided to do some boundary
The
work.
episode, was it 4?
Oh my God. We've talked about the kitchen several times. It's a really fascinating thing how it comes up in my life. But what was really great was I've been doing all this archetype work lately, just calling upon different energies in my life. And like, so I have what I call the Empress. And the Empress is the knowing, the knowing part of me, and that's very grounded, and that sees the whole picture.
I'm sorry, I don't know if any of you heard that, but I just have a ginormous thunderclap that may be on the recording. But
and just when I came up with Empress,
you said Empress. I swear to God, you said Empress and the sky and
thunder.
Yes,
and that's our thunder and
yes.
lightning. That's our grandparents. That's that's powerful. Isn't that interesting? Well, see, I'm a big believer in invoking the energies and going, okay, let's call it in.
Right.
Then I also have a right, and I also have a warrior personality and archetype as well, which does the boundary setting. With it has a shield and a knife and a sword. It's like kind of like Katniss, from Hunger Games. So
yes.
Anyways, I decided I was extremely lacking in these energies in my life, and so I just called upon Empress and Warrior, and I made a decision that I would create boundaries, and that from now on I would inform, like, when you do this, I feel like this, fill in the blank. But I would now, instead of lashing out, I would say, I understand what you're doing. I appreciate it, but you need to know when you treat me like this and get, shame me for doing something that you think is wrong. I feel, like small, and that I go into shame, and it's not acceptable any longer. And now I'm going to educate you on how to treat me. And there's another way to ask for what you want, as opposed to how you're lashing out because you're frustrated with not having it. I really made all these decisions. It was fascinating in the middle of this lake. So I thought, well, this will be a good thing to talk about, because boundary setting is really difficult for a lot of people, especially with your own family members, and especially with children.
Yeah, well, I had to say my in my upbringing, though, I mean, it's hard in a slightly different way. My sister and I always say that we have absolutely no boundaries. That my father, in some sort of his narcissistic way, just said whatever the hell he wanted to at any given time, no matter how inappropriate the rest of the world may have thought it to be, which is a strange kind of power as well. But yeah, my sister and I are known for oversharing, if you will, like just not realizing that
Oh,
I mean, just telling everything, all the details, and what you can sometimes see on people's faces when they're like, oh, and you're like, oh, whoops, that's just how we talk, and that's not, you know what I mean, that we tend to not have boundaries in a different way, in a way of not so much allowing people to step on our power, but more so in its own way, kind of giving too much information when it makes them people put them in an
right,
uncomfortable position, and also I think in a weird way trying to claim trauma, by just talking about it like it's nothing, just kind of tossing it off in conversation, and realizing that that's not the appropriate place for it. That's not the
right, and it's kind of bypassing the trauma the same way
yeah,
where it's that, and that's what I meant when I said I'm betraying myself. I'm
yeah,
just totally bypassing my values, my boundaries, my sense of self,
yeah.
and
It can't be that bad if I'm sharing it with everybody. If I just tell it like a funny story, then it's not so traumatic. I think that's where a lot of mine comes from. Is
it's
that
so fascinating.
yeah? If I can just toss it off in a witty cocktail party conversation, then it's not as traumatic as I feel like it is. Which is again not giving it its due. Really, not giving it its
Right.
and what lessons may be learned from it, what could come from it, what could what I mean, all of that stuff. And that's why I like the way you say calling in the the energies. I think that's very because I think that means that you're holding space for them and allowing them a place in you, which is very uh, I I I I I desire that. I
Yeah.
admire it.
So and I've been also, the book I'm reading this week.
Is it the one we recommended last week? I think it is. I think it is.
Yes, the embracing anxiety, the practices about embracing anxiety with Carla McLaren. Um, wow, it's really great,
Yeah,
really
Arlen
great.
McLaren.
And there is this wonderful boundary setting visualization, which I really want to I want to just share with you. And I honestly, you can do this, but just don't close your eyes if you're driving anybody. And you don't need to, because it's actually a good one to be able to do with your eyes open. But the whole idea is to first drop into your body, just be aware of your breath, and as if it's an anchor to a boat, and just, even if you put your one hand on your belly, so your awareness is within, and just following your breath. And then, oof, that's just sort of a
Love the
mindful
breathing
moment.
one.
Just
I
doing
love
that,
breathing.
doing that is amazing. Just putting your
I
hand
always
there.
do that with
Like,
the kids, in rehearsal, cause especially the young ones.
right.
I
It's a
like
good,
them to breathe because we'll do something, to get your body moving or whatever. But then I like to get them before we start to say our lines and work on
right.
the piece. I like to bring you back into your body and kind of harness all that good energy, physical energy that we've gotten going
Yeah.
into that. And they always tease me that they say, you always say, oh, let's just take another one. And I'm like, I know, because I love the breath so much. They're like, I know, you always say, oh, that felt so good, let's just do that again. And I'm like, I do.
Well, the body is the only thing that's in the present moment. Your mind is filled with future and past and all this, but the body is the present moment. That's why the breath takes you into the body and brings you into the present moment. It's fascinating, but just feel the breath, and as well feel your legs against whatever it is you're sitting on. Feel your skin against the chair, your feet against the floor, or within your shoes, and bottom of your soles against the shoes, your back against whatever it is you're resting on. Or if you're walking, feel the air against your skin. And in your mind's eye, imagine that there's, your hands are in front of you, all, that whole my business, your business is whatever, you put two hands in front of you and out to the side and out behind you, and you create a circle, but you can do it in your mind's eye. You don't have to physically put your hands out, but just imagine an arm's length in front of you and all around you, and just whip a little bubble around you, like a little circle around you. And then give it a color. Whatever color pops up, that's the color it wants to be. Don't try to edit it. And just allow yourself to be like this, like a yolk in the middle of an egg. You are in your bubble. And these are your boundaries. And just, notice how big it is. If it wants to be bigger. Is it feeling too small? Does it want to be bigger? And you can expand it, in your mind's eye. Just let's try filling more of the room up with this beautiful bubble of light or color or whatever it is, whatever texture that is. And you can play with it. You can bring it in a little and bring it out like an accordion. And this is yours. And what's great is to know and that other people have theirs as well. And it's kind of cool when when you're in, just to honor that. And positivity can come through this bubble. I always like to say that. I add that, like positive can,
like light,
and light can come through this bubble. But you can put this bubble around you, and anything other negative outside forces that are not yours, that are other people's, just bounce off. they don't get to come through. And you can this is really good protection when you're out, and I'll do this when I'm on public transportation.
I was going to say, I used to talk about this all the time in public transportation. And in a way that I used to say that I felt that somehow my resting energy, as Karina will say, you're really good at talking to people on the edge, and that I feel like that energy that I have would sometimes attracts people in their less than healthy states, especially in the New York subway system, let's say.
Yeah, you do have a message that goes out and says, I can talk to anybody.
Come on, let's talk.
I like holding space for these.
And sometimes that's not exactly the appropriate energy you want to send out, especially as they say, like in the subway, on the bus, whatever. Right. So I used to put a bubble around myself to try and kind of keep that so that my energy would just go this far. It would just go, you know what I mean? And again, and I say that too in terms of, I know you talk about, sending the light and all that. I think about that, trying in terms of protection around my family, is putting them in a bubble, putting them in this kind of just lovely, not that they can't touch things and go through, but just, just things that are negative don't need to get through their bubble. I like that. Michael and I used to call it Professor and Mrs. Fun Bubble sometimes too, when we would be on the subway together, and I'd be like, just come step into my bubble. He's like, oh my God, these people are I was like, just come step into my bubble. Step into my bubble. It's so safe and nice in my bubble. Don't worry about it.
I love that. Well, okay, there's something you can do even more with this bubble, which I like the second part to this. And this is about rejuvenating yourself. Mm. And this is also from this book, The Embracing Anxiety. And so you have your bubble, right? And it's filled with beautiful light, or whatever color it is. And it's either filled or it's just the ring of light around, whatever pops up for you. But imagine between the edge of your skin and the edge of the bubble, there's this beautiful space that in your mind's eye, go to your favorite place ever. That, or one of your favorite places, like mine's getting into that middle of the lake and floating. And just like feeling the ripples, like being on my back and just floating in the middle, like whatever gives you your favorite spot. Just go there and feel that feeling, be there, and let that space fill up with that place.
Oh, that's nice.
literally that whole, all that, what's between your skin and the edge of the bubble is this experience of being in this favorite place of yours, and just fill it up with the peace and the whatever the sensations are that are resonant for you, and then allow it to enter into your skin. Even now it can enter into your body, and just breathe it into your face, behind your eyes, and breathe it down your throat, into your chest, and down your arms. And you just feel that the sensations and the essence of that place down into your heart. Breathe it into your belly and your hips, and down your legs, and into your feet. And just breathe all of that. Breathe that place into your body. And you can do this anytime. You can do this in a stoplight.
I like that one.
Isn't that
like
a cool
mini vacation?
It is. It's giving yourself a mini vacation, and your brain completely goes there. Right? I mean, it's like suddenly the frontal lobe goes, oh, I've calmed down and I'm chill.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It's a great visualization. I liked it a lot. So I'm like,
yeah. Well, I think, I don't know if for me it's somewhat easier one, because I often picture that bubble, and I have a pretty good concept of the bubble. So then put in a place where you feel, is your peaceful place is nice. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a take on it. It's like, oh, let's take it one step further.
Yeah, I like that, to make the bubble rejuvenating, not just protecting and healing.
Right.
And boundarying. Good one. Yeah.
So those are my shares for feeling better in this moment, and trying to find equanimity. And in the minute, I have to tell you, the minute I made the decision in the middle of the lake to create a bubble and to have my boundaries, and I promised myself that I would not betray myself. Then the next time an issue came up, I was going to I trusted myself. Now I trust myself to stand up for myself. And there was something about it where I suddenly went, wow, I feel really powerful now. And I was no longer triggered or defensive. And, they say that the stronger your boundaries are, the more compassionate you can be towards other people, because you have the trust and the faith that you won't allow somebody to go past.
I was going to say, you're not overly consumed with protecting yourself.
Yeah, you can trust yourself to protect yourself when the time comes. You'll meet it with integrity, and you'll kindly state, this is not acceptable. When this happens, when you do this, I feel I'm responding this way. And you're able to, like the warrior comes in, like your warrior has your back. And there's something about it just changes everything. And so far I haven't even had to do I've been like, nobody's stepping on my boundaries. And I'm thinking, isn't this interesting? I just changed my energy about it, and I'm naturally being respected. So there's something to think about.
There is.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I also just had, while you were doing all this, just had the most intense storm just open up above my house. It's really cool. It was actually it worked very well for all this for me. Kind of like a ASMR kind of like hearing the rain and the thunder and the.
So we'll probably get to me in about 15, 20 minutes.
I was going to say, I think it's headed your direction. I don't know if it came from south or north, but yes, no, it's I love a good storm. I really do. I think that they're powerful and cleansing, and I think it really is. It's so much energy in the air and in the universe that it comes together and it creates.
You can hear the thunder. and the crackling. This is
Yeah.
super exciting.
My place is also a really nice, interesting place to have a storm, to sit through a storm, I like to say view a storm, because I often do. I'll just sit and watch a storm, especially at night. There's lightning and stuff. But yeah, it's, I think, again, it's this weird, my whole piece of land that we live on is a little like a bubble, I always feel, because it's low on this mountain. And so, as I used to say to everybody, it's like being at the planetarium, but really because we have a kind of a doming effect of the trees, and the sky seems like it comes all the way down and creates a dome. So yeah, I'm going to be working on this bubble thing for a while.
Clearly it was meant to come up, because that's all. Just my whole week has just been about that.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it when somebody was going in for oral surgery, and that I was saying that I think of that, protective bubble around things. But yeah, so
right.
I like the bubble. The bubble is good for me. I hope it was good for all of you.
Yes, and
I feel better.
You all find your bubble and befriend your bubble and call upon it
Call
at
my
any
bubble.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm calling. I like it.
Mindful exercise. Yeah.
I like it a lot. Well, thanks so much, Liz, for taking us through that. I like that one. And it feels very doable, very accessible, if you will. And I think that's also important for these things, is that, when you feel like they don't feel too daunting.
I don't think anything should be daunting. I think it all should be playful and joyful and just simple. They're the most powerful exercises for me.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty playful and joyful, and I really appreciate that about you. But I wouldn't call you simple, but playful and joyful, I definitely feel always when I'm with you. But yeah, okay, so thanks, everybody. Thank you again, Liz. Thanks for taking us on this journey this time.
Thank
And
you.
we hope your kitchen feels better. And for myself, I feel better. But so, yeah, thank you, everyone, for listening to us, for possibly viewing us. And we really appreciate you spending some of your time with us.
Yeah, and being in our bubble.
Yeah.
Right? We've got a bubble around this, too. So you're all included. You're all in it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. The Let's All Feel Better bubble. Ooh. Ooh. Swag ideas.
There.
Excellent. Actually, when I was a preschool teacher, when people said, "What do you do for a living?" I used to say I was a professional bubble blower. But yes, that's what it seemed like I did a lot of. But,
yeah, more ways than one.
Okay. All right. Go to your bubbles and feel better.
All right.